Hey, welcome to the Randy Karraker Show. This is the Wordsmith, Matthew Rocchio. I'm Randy Karraker. Great to have you with us. Chat with us we get a spam call during the course of the show. We've done this before. If you want me to pick up, I will, but you have to tell us. Say, yeah, Randy, talk. We'll put them on speaker, and we'll talk to the spam people. STL Sports Central is brought to you by our friends at DraftKings Pick 6, where the crown is yours. So anyway, I call you a wordsmith because when people logged on today, they saw that you had written St. Louis Cardinals fall to lowly Nationals. And we also, on our rundown here, we say it says Cardinals flounder against Nationals in game 2, fall by a score of 8-2. So they are floundering against the lowly Nationals. Hapless has not come into play yet.
No, hapless, I think, is the Rockies. Like when you're the very bottom of the league, you're hapless. But when you're the bottom of your division, you're simply lowly. And so I would say the Nationals are lowly. Because I think even saying the last place doesn't confer enough because there's divisions. And the Rockies are so bad that calling the Nationals the last place Nationals, it's like, yeah, but no, it could get worse than that. And so I felt like lowly was a good qualifier to show you how disappointed I am in the Cardinals' loss last night.
Floundering against the lowly Nationals. See, I know you may or may not be like emotionally involved with every win or loss. And I'm glad that you are emotionally invested in this particular team. And I do when things are going well, and I have the belief that the Cardinals are actually making an effort to try to win in a particular year. I would get upset over a loss like this to the Nationals last night. I just think that this is a Cardinal team. I was going to say it one way. Let me say it another way.
We're being careful with our words.
We have played this back on the radio. We played this a lot. And pretty much every year, like at the deadline or at some point during the season, Mo will say, hopefully we surprise some people. Have you heard John Mozeliak say that since last October? Hopefully we'll surprise some people. Even they aren't lying to you. They aren't saying, hopefully we'll. They don't plan on surprising anybody. So why do you think you're going to be surprised? Come on, it is what it is. It's great to be emotionally invested. But the fact of the matter is, if they aren't telling you that they're planning to win and saying, hopefully we surprise some people, at least they give a little hope. If they aren't giving any hope, why do you have hope?
Wow, I was not expecting such a. Whatever the opposite of sunshine and lollipops take from Randy is.
But here's why. Because you said you're disappointed in the loss. I don't care. If they win, I care about the team, but I don't care if they win or lose. I'm watching for, and we've said this all year long, I'm watching for the ascent or regression of individuals.
And that's why I can call it disappointing, because Pallante struggling the way he was when it looked like he was turning the corner from what I thought was a completely reasonable wall for him to hit at the beginning of the season. With his success in the second half of last year, he's a little bit over his skis with expectations and what he could bring. And so when he hit the wall at the beginning of the year, I wasn't surprised. But to watch him work through it over the last 4 or 5 starts, that gave me a lot of confidence about Andre Pallante, especially I think it was the last 2 starts, I want to say. And so to watch him struggle outright and struggle to the point he did, only 1 strikeout to 2 home runs, that's, oh God, that looks bad. 7 earned runs, and the way he was giving them up against, again, not a very good offensive team at all. Obviously, they have some big bats with Woods, but still, that's why it was so disappointing. It was Andre Pallante struggling, and when you added on to the issues with the rest of the back of the rotation, that's even more alarming. And the fact that we're not talking about a game where any of the young bats necessarily stepped up in an outsized way. Obviously, they, to your point, they actually, did get some hits with runners in scoring position last night, but it wasn't enough. So I call it disappointing for the exact reason that you point out, which is the things that I think we should be focusing on. And mind you, I was going to jokingly ask if the media is to blame for giving fans hope this year.
We should hold people accountable. Yeah.
Mind you, I have been on this season's not about the playoffs since April.
You have.
And I caught a lot of hell for that as they were dominating teams in May. And that was fair because it looked like things were changing. And so I've always kind of been in that middle ground of don't have huge expectations. But I think it's important that even in a throwaway game like last night, we take a look at the things that will matter to roster players next year. And you know what, I was going to save this for later, but I'm going to bring this up now because yes, last year you made a big proclamation that pretty much that the roster that we were seeing in 2024 is the roster that we were going to see in 2025 from the field.
My belief was that everybody that was going to play for the 2025 Cardinals was in the organization in 2024. And aside from Phil Matone, I believe I'm correct.
And this was thrown out yesterday by KSDK reporter Holden Kerwicki on Twitter. And I thought this was a fascinating question. Holden's great. How many guys currently on the Cardinals roster will still be here on the team in 4 years? And I thought that was an interesting question because that, I think, is how a lot of the questions that we're asking about the roster right now kind of should be framed, of who's going to be here. I put it on I think 4 years might be too far of an arc. I think maybe 2 or 3 years might be a little bit more reasonable for the question. But nonetheless, I think it's an interesting question. And as we got into this, it made me think of that from Holden.
Yeah, and I would say that it'll depend on what direction the Cardinals want to go in terms of, like, the Blues spend their cap. Their cap is going to have to go up. If you're going to sign Donovan, if you're going to sign Wynn, if you're going to sign Liberatore, if you're going to sign Burleson, if you're going to keep the young players on your roster around, they're going to have to ante up, and they're going to have to get uncomfortable, because one thing the Cardinals have told us year after year is that they don't like those 10-year contracts. Well, if you let Mason Wynn get to 4 years of service and you offer him a 3-year deal, he's not going to take it. He's going to say, why would I take a year of free agency and sell that to you? That doesn't make any sense. So what the Cardinals are going to have to do, I believe, is give these guys the long-term contracts like Bobby Witt Jr. got in Kansas City, maybe not to the tune of $325 million, but the guys that are earlier than 25, younger than 25, I think the Cardinals are going to have to sign those guys. Otherwise, they'll just be churning through players. Wynn will go, and whoever they draft on Sunday night will wind up being the shortstop. Maybe Eli Willits will come up, be the next shortstop. But I think that will be what the Cardinals run into. And, oh, by the way, a lot of this is going to depend upon what the charge is for Chaim Bloom, because that's exactly what Chaim Bloom did when he was in Tampa, right? Now, the Cardinals have told me that this is going to be a hybrid, that they're still going to pay their young players to keep them around, unlike what Bloom did in Tampa, although he did do it in Boston, by the way. But a lot of it is going to be, what is our identity as an organization? Are we going to be an organization that churns through different players and just hopes and kind of knows that young players are going to step up? Or are we going to be an organization that keeps our star players around and lets our fans get to know them and get to develop an emotional attachment with them?
And so my larger point was just that I think a lot of the questions you can be asked after every Cardinal game is, did you see anything promising or anything problematic with a player that you expect to be on this roster in 2 or 3 or 4 years? Pick your time frame, how you want to frame this. I'm choosing to frame this as 2027. So I'm looking at 2 years. And so for me, Bill Dowton says he doesn't see Donovan here after the trade deadline in 26. I think that's jumping the gun a little bit.
I think Donovan is the one guy that they really want to sign to a long-term.
I think so.
I don't think I know that Donovan is the one guy that they really want to sign to a long-term contract.
And Andy says, I don't know if Burleson, Newt, or Sajasi are on this team in 4 years. And that's why I think that the discrepancy is important, because I think if you're the Cardinals, every game that Alec Burleson right now is material to how you're building this team for the next 2 years. Like, that matters. Same thing with Sajasi, because if Sajasi is a bat that is useful at second base and third base, well, now your conversation about what happens post Nolan Arenado, it includes another body. And now, Thomas Sajasi being a legitimate player, that changes what you do with JJ Weatherholt, because or what you do with Thomas Sajasi, because if JJ Weatherholt is what he was and Thomas Sajasi is going to be a good bat, then you have to, as we keep saying, you have to find ways to get Thomas Sajasi into your team build in 2027 in the future, which is left field or what have you.
Well, but team build is operative, because I don't think he's ever going to be a regular player.
That's fair.
Right? It'll be Arenado and or Gorman or somebody else at third. It's going to be Wynn. It's going to be Donovan or Weatherholt. So JC doesn't have the bat to play first base. And again, Weatherholt in the outfield or Herrera in the outfield, Victor Scott or Ryan Church. And then in right field, you have people on the way like Davis. As good as JC might be, I think I could see him being a Daniel Descalso type on the bench for the Cardinals, being kind of a super sub.
And that's why any game that he plays, that I'm just watching Thomas JC at bats, and I don't care as much about the final score because what he projects as is more important to me. And I know fans don't like to hear this because fans are I want wins or I want losses. And it's funny we're having this conversation now, Randy, because I'm not trying to spin it here. This is a very similar conversation that I've been having literally the last week on the city shows. Because there's people who are like, why are you guys breaking down the things that are happening in games? The team is bad. They lost. So why do you care? It's like, because there's players on this roster that are going to be on this team when they aren't bad and they are trying to compete for something. And that's my same answer here with the Cardinals. It's like, why am I disappointed about a bad 8-2 game? It's because things happened inside of it that are problematic for a year or two in the future. And that's why I'm focusing. And that's what I'm focusing on. And so there are still reasons and things to even in a loss, both positive and negative, that you have to zone in on with this team, because I'm still on the thing that it's not about this year. And even if they make the playoffs, I don't want it to be about this year. And I've been adamant that it would be a mistake to make it about this year. And I think the Cardinals have been consistent about that the entire time as well.
Bill Downton points out that Weatherholt had a triple and a homer in his first game last night. He also, in the second game of the doubleheader, had another double. So he had a double, a triple, and a homer. Went 2 for 4 in the first game, went 1 for 4 in the second game. They got rocked, by the way. Memphis got rocked twice, but he looks really good, and he's going to have a chance to be on next year's team. And that's another guy that they want to get a good look at, and he's off to a really good start at Double-A. I want to go back to Pallante just for one moment, because sometimes you just have to accept that pitchers aren't going to be great all the time. And even the best of guys run into problems sometimes and have slumps and aren't as good as they are at other times. So I think that it makes sense for us to look at the big picture, look at the portfolio for Pallante rather than just zero in on last night. And he was not good last night, no doubt about it. Go back to Chris Carpenter's Cy Young year in 2005. He has a start where he goes 3 1/3 and allows 8. He has another start where he goes 6 innings and allows 5 runs. He has another start where he goes 7 and allows 5. He has another start where, and granted, he was giving you innings, but Pallante gave you 6 last night. He had another start late, Carpenter did, where he had 3 starts in a row where he allowed 4 runs. So, and that was in September, by the way, for him. Now, the team won one of those, but even the best guys are going to have their stretches where they aren't as effective. You'd like the guy to give you 7 innings and allow 3 or fewer runs every single time, but bad nights occur. And it's an inexact, it really is a science. Pitching is. It's like us with our golf. You know, we can play great one day. And I talk to pitchers about this all the time, especially pitchers that are good golfers, because I think that weight shift, I think there's so much similarity between golf for us and them, weight shift and concentration. And you can be awesome on the golf course one day and shoot, for me, an 82 and 84. The next day I can go out and shoot a 101 because I don't have the same focus. Maybe just one little mechanical issue throws me off. And Pallante even admitted that last night. He said, mechanically, I just wasn't there. And I think that we have to understand that they're men, not machines.
Well, the real third man's focusing on the real thing. Pallante is now throwing a sweeper, although he actually has added it to his rotation. I was talking to Jim Hayes. I do not think he actually threw it last night.
Yeah. Was it a sweeper or a slider?
The fact when Chip brought up the sweeper yesterday being such a deadly pitch for Sonny Gray, I had to hold back laughing. It was too funny to me. One quick thing, Jamie, I want to bring this up because Jamie Junger says Bernie was right on the show. It's time to trade Newt and allow them to bring up Church. We also got another.
And by the way, the trade deadline is still. I mean, when's the last time you saw a starting player get traded this season. And Nootbaar is a starting player. You need somebody to tango with. There's still 21 days before the trade deadline. And trade deadline, I have no problem with it. But you can't just call up another team and say, you're going to take Lars Nootbaar. You just can't. And not everybody wants to make a move. People want to find out two things. Number one, am I in the race or am I not? But the other thing they want to find out is, might I get that player cheaper, or might I get more for my chip in 21 days than on July 10th?
Andy also mentioned Ryan Church. This might be a trade piece at the deadline. He's another lefty outfielder, and we have a ton of those in the organization. Here's the thing. I understand the positivity around not Ryan Church, Nathan Church, my apologies. Around Nathan Church.
There's a Ryan Church. I don't know what I know there is one. Nathan Church is correct, but where do we know Ryan Church? Oh,
he's a pitcher for the Pirates?
Oh, well, might be. Okay.
But yeah, Nathan Church is the guy we're talking about with the Cardinals organization. Here's my thing about him. He has in his career 104 at bats at AAA.
Yeah.
I don't know. And yes, he's has an 1,000 OPS in those 104 AAA at bats. But last year in 2024, his AA numbers in 500 at bats was a 705 OPS at AA. And so he's got 119 at bats at AA this year, 943 OPS, and 100 at bats at AAA with 1,000 OPS. I don't think many Major League Baseball teams are going to buy into 100 at bats at AAA as a guy surprised. That we need. Okay, that's fair.
You'd be surprised at how stupid teams are. They are.
Okay, that's fair. Because I'm just like, for me, one thing I think it would be crazy, considering all the other people in the organization, it would be crazy for me for the Cardinals to find we got to manufacture a way to get a guy with 100 at bats at AAA, because clearly he's an MLB, a Major League Baseball level hitter. I think that is so early in the evaluation to pull the trigger on a guy and be like, this is the guy. And obviously teams, I think, are going to want to trade for this guy because he's ripping it up in 100 at bats at AAA, because that hasn't happened a billion times and never transferred into anything. I'm not saying he's not going to be something. I've started seeing this name over the last week, and it just feels like a gross overreaction.
But the Cardinals, especially in the last decade, they've become notorious for this. They did it with Tavares. He came up too early. Obviously, they admitted that they rushed Jordan Walker. The Cardinals were at the forefront of condensing the minor leagues and having fewer minor league players and getting their investments up to the majors and making them become disposable items. Cardinals were at the forefront of that. They liked that idea rather than being what Branch Rickey envisioned, where they had something like 14 or 18 minor league teams. We're going to see this more and more. Players that are drafted are going to get to the majors, and this is going to be for all teams sooner and sooner and sooner. There's 6 guys in the majors that were drafted in last year's draft. 6 guys already.
Jesus. Okay.
And we're going to see it more and more.
That's
and they
fair.
don't care. It's the quality of the product doesn't matter to the people that are running the sport. It doesn't.
So you agree it's not a good thing, but you're saying it's happening.
It's happening.
Gotcha.
It's not a good thing. It's a terrible thing. But they don't care. They don't care about they say, okay, well, competitively, look how many guys play baseball that don't know how to play. They say, well, competitively, we've got a game on the field. They don't care. And you know what? For somebody who's joining the sport right now at the age of 10 or 15, that's all they know. And eventually it'll be kind of like football. Football was, when the 99 Rams played 25 years ago, it's a completely different sport than it is right now. I don't think the people that run the sports really care about the quality of the sport as much as they care about just putting guys on the field, competing. It's more of a performance now. Let's throw 100 miles an hour and let's hit a home run.
I think it's more about, I think everyone's just so connected to the bottom line discussion because I think everyone who runs the leagues all agrees that the quality of the league and the product would be better with less games.
Oh, yeah.
But no one's ever going to do it.
But let me give you just a microcosm of an example of what I'm talking about with players being disposable. And it's most notable with the 100-mile-an-hour bullpen arms, okay? Jordan Hicks comes up, becomes the Cardinal closer, gets hurt, comes back, throws a little bit more, becomes close to free agency, trade him. Well, what are we going to do? Oh, let's plug in another 100-mile-an-hour closer, Ryan Helsley. Okay, good. Well, we plug in Ryan Helsley. He sets the team record for saves. He's going to be a free agent. He'll walk after 2025. He won't be here next year. Well, what do? We'll plug in another 100-mile-an-hour closer, Tink Hence. Tink Hence will be here 3, 4, 5 years. He'll get too expensive. They'll take him out, and another 100-mile-an-hour closer or relief pitcher will show up. They're disposable items now. The player is a disposable item, and and it's all analytics. They are a product. They aren't a human being. They are a product that once they're worn out, just like any machine, they just move on to the next one.
Austin Shiflett says, I hate how right you are, Randy. I miss how sports were just even like 15, 20 years ago. I think he's 100% right. It has a completely different feel. And see, and for me, it's important for me that you say that, because for me, that different feel is very likely, or could very likely just be a product of nostalgia, which is when you're 33, about to turn 34, like I am, everything feels different than when I was 14, because I'm a different person. The world's cruel, and I realize that now, and I'm jaded by things. And so that's why there's not as much magic in the world as when I was 14. But for you, who is 60 now and was 40 then, to notice that difference, there's still going to be some nostalgia pull, obviously, but because in your brain it's like, well, that's when sports were, like when my son was a baby. So there's still a little bit of a nostalgic pull in your brain, I think. But I think it's very important that you have two sections of your adulthood that are so starkly different in sports. And we're not talking about your adulthood and your childhood like we are for so many people like me and other people who are in their 30s in the comments who are undoubtedly agreeing with you. Your perspective on this is so important.
And nobody in baseball now makes an emotional buy. Let me give you two quick notes here, anecdotes that I have. Number one, and this was awesome. In 2002, I was down at the winter meetings in Dallas, and Scott Boras had Alex Rodriguez out as a free agent, okay? And what he did, no analytics involved. He got the owner of the team, Tom Hicks, took him into a ballroom. It was at some convention center, big hotel in Dallas. He goes into a room with Tom Hicks and sells him completely emotionally. He says, hey, this guy's going to fill up your ballpark, and you're going to be able to build real estate around your ballpark, and he's going to be a great guy for your organization. You should sign him. Now, at that point, Kevin Garnett had the biggest contract in sports at $126 million. Boras wanted A-Rod to have exactly twice as much or more than the Garnett contract. He walked out of that room. Garnett was making 126. Walked out of the room with a $252 million contract for A-Rod. That is why A-Rod's number was $252 million. Okay, so Tom Hicks was sold on an emotional buy. 2003, Bill DeWitt hires Jeff Luhnow and says, what I want to do is be able to put a price tag on every single player. I don't want to overpay for guys. Can you do this? Can you put numbers and attach a price to the numbers? So Luhnow did. And even after that, you all right there, big boy? He's just having a drink. Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, good. Even after that, in 2011, Mr. DeWitt, who likes players, okay, he likes to interact with players. He's told us a million times, I enjoy having stars on my team. Albert Pujols was a free agent. The Cardinals offered him $210 million. He turned it down, obviously, and went to the Angels. And when Mo came back and had his next media get-together to talk about Pujols leaving, he said, we made that offer, but Mo, was uncomfortable making that offer because Mo knew the numbers. He knew what Jeff Luhnow had done. They had attached a number, and that number, the emotional contract that Bill DeWitt offered to Albert Pujols, was beyond what his analytics people were saying it should be. And so he made, in 2011, an emotional decision to offer Albert Pujols that contract. The Cardinals don't do that now. When they signed Goldie to the $130 million contract, it was right in line in what the analytics price tag was. When they got Arenado from Colorado, there was a reason that money that they got from Colorado was $51 million. It wasn't $50 million. It wasn't $55. It was $51 million. It wasn't a round number because those numbers are so accurate as to what teams are going to pay. And this is one of the reasons the free agency is bad now too. But my point here is that it used to be when Tom Hicks signed A-Rod, when the Cardinals made the offer, or when Artie Moreno signed Pujols, those were emotional. Now here we are 14 years later. There are no more emotional signings in baseball. And so that's why the Cardinals, does Steve Cohen make emotional signings? Yes. Do the Dodgers make, they go beyond because they can afford to. The Cardinals, they aren't making emotional signings, and they aren't going to be a team that's going to spend beyond what they think a player is worth. So the Cardinals are going to be swimming in completely different waters than the Mets or the Red Sox or the Dodgers or even the Padres, who have a smaller market than St. Louis does, because there is no emotion in what the Cardinals do. And so I understand where you're coming from when you say the Cardinals don't care about winning, but it's because the Cardinals don't care about emotion. They're very cold and very calculated with the way they go about their business.
That's an incredible breakdown. And there's not I can't poke a single hole in that thought process. And that's why I think that brings me into something from last night that a lot of people are talking about, which is announced attendance sub 21,000.
Yep.
And that's a bad number.
And here is what, and this is part of the brilliance of the St. Louis Rams. Here's my thought about how and why sports work. Okay, was that a bad comp?
Knock that off your bingo card because it's a little dusty.
But it's evil brilliance. Why do we buy tickets? And this is across sports. And baseball has become, it's more of an event than it is a competition. Certainly, we don't have the emotional attachment. I am of the belief that the reason that teams sell tickets and get people to watch on TV and listen on the radio is because they get their franchise. We all get caught up in our emotional attachment to our team, and our emotional attachment, especially as a young person, causes us to make ultimately a financial investment. So we make that emotional investment that turns into a financial investment. What the Rams did is systematically destroyed any reason for us to have an emotional investment in the team. Steven Jackson was a guy that was really good, but who else on those Rams that you grew up with, who else would you have developed an emotional attachment to? For me, and Chris Long was one of those guys too, but like the Greatest Show on Turf, you liked everybody. Yeah. They were great. But because of the attitude of people like Kroenke and Demoff, and because of the fact that we might have had 3 players to make an emotional investment in, we quit making our financial investment in it. And what the Rams did, after they systematically disassembled the team and said, yeah, well, they didn't say it, but we knew they were not trying to win. Then they put it in their relocation proposal.
Yeah. This is a team it's a team whose most marketable player the final few years was a punter.
Yep. Right. Good point. So here, Johnny Hecker.
Loved him, but still.
So here's where the Cardinals are. They thought that they would have a couple of guys, cornerstone guys in Arenado and Goldschmidt, that would lead them to the promised land, and that we would make that emotional investment. But they never made their team good enough to have those guys competitive in the playoffs. For whatever reason, whether it was that they counted on people like Reyes and Flaherty to be good, or they couldn't afford pitching anymore because it got to $30, $35, $40 million a year, whatever it was, they never added to those guys. And even still, you weren't going to win, with all due respect, Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson. You just were not going to win with those guys. And so we have reached a point now with the Cardinals where it's such a young team. Nobody except for Arenado has any real extensive lineage here as far as being a Cardinal. And we aren't, are we, tell me, are we emotionally attached to Nolan Arenado? Is there a Cardinal right now that everybody is attached to? I think most of the people, even though a lot of people wanted to trade Matt Holliday, I think there was a great emotional investment in having a guy like Holliday. I think that there was clearly the team in the 2000s that won all the time. There was an emotional investment.
Yes, I'd say so.
Yeah, but I don't think there are guys right now that have been around long enough, even though they're good players, to make an emotional investment. I
think you see,
I can see it with Wynn. I can see it with Scott down the road with certainly a guy like Brendan Donovan.
But what about a guy like Arenado, who has made so many public declarations of his commitment to St. Louis and the Cardinals? I feel like, do you think that because it's obviously been fogged over by the lack of team success and things like that, but do you think 10 years ago the fan base treats Arenado differently when they hear him, even if they're losing and they hear him saying how much he loves St. Louis and he wants to be a part of the history of St. Louis? Do you think it hits differently 10 years ago?
I think it does. And here's the other thing with him. We were, for such a long time, when he was really good, we were always on the edge about him being back next year because he had the opt-outs. And even though he opted back in, we never knew. How many people said after the bad season in 22, after they were good in 21, remember the last homestand of the season, he had to go to Mo's office and say, yeah, I'm opting in. Until he did, everybody thought he was going to leave. They said, oh, he's going to be one and done here. So I think people were always reluctant to make that investment emotionally in him because they weren't convinced he was going to be here.
That's fair. And I just think to your point though, as soon as he did make that investment, I feel like we would have seen people go full-fledged. Like I think people would have.
Yep. If he would have just
dove in 100%,
no doubt. If he would have said after that first year, yeah, I'm going to die a Cardinal. I think that would have changed things dramatically.
Do you think maybe there was a little bit of? Do you think maybe he was trying to mend a fence with maybe one of those Protestant that the big faith about the Cardinals?
Yeah, when he said he had the opportunity to leave,
and then talking about how he wanted to be here and he wants to be in St. Louis and
maybe,
mend a fence a little.
Maybe he did, but he because he had the opt-outs, he couldn't go to them in July and say, yeah, I'm opting back in. I understand where he's coming from, but this is what we're talking about. It's a business now. It's all business. The players used to say, when we say it's business, they say it's a game. When we say it's a game, they say it's business. Well, it's all about business now, and that's just the way it is. I do want to get to this one statistic because last night, obviously, you had the 3-run homer in the first that got you behind the 8-ball. Matthew, in March and April, the Cardinals out-homered their opponents 30-24 in 31 games. In May, the Cardinals out-homered their opponents 22-20. In June, the Cardinals out-homered their opponents 35-29. In July, the Cardinals have in 7 games been out-homered by their opponents 14-6. So maybe that has something to do with the Cardinals' lack of success in a home run game. So far this month, they're being out-homered, and they did out-homer their opponents in each of the first 3 months.
The fact that they were out-homering their opponents, and I'm actually just gonna add that stat onto the screen so that everyone can see it, because that's the fact that they out-homered their opponents in each month of the season. First of all, it tells you a lot more about the defense and the home run prevention than anything else. One thing I threw out there that was kind of crazy to me is John King just allowing 3 home runs in his first 3 appearances of July, when he allowed 1 home run in each of the previous 3 months of the season. For him to get blasted for 2 in 1 game is anomalous, but 3 in 3 appearances, absolutely insane for John King. Just the home runs have been a huge problem. And obviously, going back to last year with a guy like Miles Michaelis, that was a huge bugaboo for him. It was a reason that was so many of his earned runs were coming from those home runs, and he seemed to be avoiding that issue. And then obviously he certainly is not avoiding that issue anymore following the holiday. But God, they're getting creamed right now in July. And that was one of the comments we had right off the gate, because I put it at the very the top of the show today. What broke the Cardinals pitching? Because it is definitely broken here in July. And I asked that not necessarily to be able to say that you can pinpoint how things are happening, more of just do you think we're starting to see a second half regression to what this team was projected to be at the start of the season?
I think they need to get their guys back. I think having Herrera back will help. I don't know if during the All-Star break, Arenado will be able to get healthy. Did we talk about his shoulder yesterday here?
We did not know. We talked about how he's been dealing with it, but we haven't talked about the updates.
Remember when the Cardinals got him? He had that horrible COVID year for Colorado because of the bad shoulder, because he couldn't hit. And he came here and he said, the shoulder feels good. I hope that his shoulder issue now isn't similar to what he endured in Colorado. And he's regressing. I mean, he's older. His regression is real. But you do need to get your good hitters hitting. I think the other part of this is that they've lost their last 13 games when scoring 3 runs or less. The magic number for the Cardinals is to score 4. Last 13 that they've scored 3 runs or less, they have lost. Last win when they scored 3 or less was against the Dodgers on June 7th. That's a month ago. Last night was their first home game with more than 1 hit with runners in scoring position since June 21st against Cincinnati. And then finally, left-handers. Cardinals are 16-18 against left-handed starters this year. I don't know if they're going to get Walker, if they'll ever get him going. I think there's something to the fact that they're extending this rehab stint. I think this is their way of sending him down without optioning him out. And I think that they need to have, obviously Contreras is fine, but they need to have another right-handed hitter in the lineup. But so to answer your question, do I see a regression? My big question is not about the offense, because I do think those guys will bounce back. My big question is, just like I always wonder about Sonny Gray, as we get to the second half of the season, as we get into these warm months, can the Cardinals sustain a 6-month season? And I don't think they can.
No, that's always been my expectation, is that things were going to kind of break down. And more so than anything, the pitching issue now means that it's not just about breaking down. The issue for me now is that there is no room to ramp up. Sonny Gray can't go 100 pitches now. Like he has to keep doing what they've been doing all year. 85 pitches, 85 pitches, 85 pitches. They can't ramp up. And the problem is that every other team that's trying to win the playoffs, every other team that's trying to make the playoffs, they're going to take August as a time to ramp up. They're going to make moves at the deadline, and they're going to take some risks probably with some of their pitchers. You can't now. You are completely handcuffed, and any more injuries come down, you're handcuffed even further. And so it's not even for me is that they're going to just fall to what we thought they were going to be. It's that they can't, there's no extra gear. They're essentially going to be running the rest of the season where they are at right now. And to your point, getting people back healthy, it might take them back to the point where they're on a pace for 86, 87 wins. But I think anything beyond that is kind of slowly slipping out of their fingers.
Yeah. And that is part of a runway. And I've said this for a long, long time. The Cardinals don't have guys, aside from Wilson Contreras and Arenado, who've played in September. And September is a different sport. And I hope the Cardinals are at least within 3-4 games of the wild card at the start of September, because the intensity level is higher. You need to get that second wind, and you need to be able to perform at an extraordinarily high level. I'm not counting on Sonny Gray, you know that. But they need to get their young players prepared for a stretch run. And that's one thing that 2025 can provide them as they try to get good in 26 and then contend in 27. Having those players know the mental and physical toll that it takes to go through a race, I think it's a big deal.
This is a general question, but it's specifically for this Cardinals team. And I guess it definitely shows if you want to maybe have Quinn Matthews be a September call-up. How do you balance having the room, because you're not a winning team, to play young players with the risk of playing young players on a dysfunctional team? What do you think? Like, how do you think teams should balance that? Because there is a risk reward, obviously, aspect of that. What do you think? Because the idea would be if you just kind of like break it all down, you trade Helsley and that's what some people want. You're not a good baseball team for the last 2 months of the season. So is it a good thing for those players to be playing on that team?
Yeah, I think getting that experience is worth it. And you only can add 2 now. So it's
that's
not
true.
that big of a deal going from 26 to 28. But the key is going to be, like, if Gordon Graceffo for the rest of this month winds up being a closer and shows that he's capable of doing the job, then you say, okay, we're getting him ready as a major league closer. I don't know if you do that with Leahy now. I don't think you plug him in and say, okay, well, he's our closer. You just can't. But if you have a guy that you think is going to be your closer in 2026, then I have no problem with a young team doing that. I would have a different approach if it was like the Brewers a couple of years ago when they traded Hader. They were in first place.
Yeah, that's right.
But the Cardinals aren't going to be in first place. I don't think they need to worry about that. And what they're going to go back to the business side of things. They are going to look at the fact that closers are fungible. That means there can be a great deal of turnover. And they're going to look at the business part of it. They're going to say, okay, can I get a closer? If Ryan Helsley is going to make $10 million next year, can I get a guy to do the same job for 2.5? Or can I get a guy to do the same job for $750 or $790 or whatever the minimum would be next year? That's the way the Cardinals are going to approach it. The Cardinals are very clinical right now. This discussion it all comes back to the fact that they've taken the emotion out of it. And the players understand that. I think Brendan Donovan was hurt with the way they treated him in arbitration, but they don't care. they're very cold and calculated.
One other chat I want to get to before we take our break. Henry Wells was saying, if you don't come, that's one thing, but showing up and trashing our team, mocking our team, just ruins it for the diehard fans. Musial would scoff the notion of not showing up. It's classless. Here's my thing. I'm on the completely other side of this, because if you are going to pay your ticket, if you're going to pay money to the franchise to see this team, as long as you don't cross any lines, I think at that point you've paid the right to boo or do a reasonable amount of fan jeering from the stands, because you paid the money and you're a fan and you're an angry fan. But I respect the effort to go down to the park, and at that point I say that's in your right as a fan to do a little booing. Don't cross any lines. Don't make it personal, but just classical fan. I'm mad at my team for sucking right now. If you pay for the ticket, I think that's completely reasonable in my mind. That's part of the game. I'm okay with fans who say, I'm mad at this franchise, so I won't buy a ticket. I'm okay with fans who say, I'm going to buy a ticket because I love the game, but I'm going to make my thoughts known. Both of those people, in my opinions, are doing fandom exactly correctly.
Stan Musial's last 6 years in the majors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Cardinals in 1958 averaged 13,800 a game, fifth of 8 teams in the National League. 59, 12,000 a game, fifth of 8. 60, 14,242, fifth of 8.
There were more people in the city back then.
Yeah. 61, 10,965 a game, sixth of 8. 1962, 11,778, fifth of 10. And then in his last year, when everybody knew it was his last year, they finished 93 and 69. They averaged 14,400 a game, third in the National League in attendance out of 10 teams. So I don't think that Stan would scoff at that. He never said anything mean about the fact that the team finished fifth or sixth out of 8 teams for the vast majority of the twilight of his career.
And listen, I don't know this for a fact, but I can't imagine that he was sitting at his home in St. Louis, happily watching the Brewery tank the team when they started to. I have a feeling that if there's anybody in St. Louis who was a little miffed that they stopped caring about winning baseball games, it was probably Stan, and he was probably okay with Cardinals fans who were mad at them for not wanting to win. I feel like a guy like that probably has a pretty solid mindset on the whole, I'm a passionate fan who wants to see my team win baseball games.
Yeah. So there you go. So now you know via podcast.
There you go.
All right. We want you to know about DraftKings Pick 6, where the crown is yours. And here we are. We're at the All-Star break this weekend, so you know what's going on in baseball. And that knowledge that you have is why I've teamed up with DraftKings to bring you Pick 6. It's the all-new way to play daily fantasy sports. And right now, if you're a new customer, play just $5 and get 50 in bonus rewards. That's 10 extra picks to keep the action going all week long. Easy to start, fun to follow, and gives you a whole new way to stay connected to the game. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use the code STL Sports to play. Here's what I got going on today. I'm going to go Lars Nootbaar.
Oh, controversial.
Hits plus runs plus RBIs against Soroka. Less than 1.5.
Oh, okay.
Less than 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs for our guy, Lars Nootbaar. And I don't think that's bad. But I'm also going to go with, I was going to go Mike Soroka, but I'm not going to play it. I'm going to go Edwin Rodriguez for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm going to go with him getting more than 4.5 strikeouts against the Padres. So Rodriguez more than 4.5 and Nootbaar with less than 1.5. And that's what you do. Then you get to watch the games, and it comes at you in a completely different style. It's so much more fun to watch the games with DraftKings Pick 6. Sign up. It's only on DraftKings Pick 6, where the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
This from Henry Wells. I've watched over 500 games, been to 30 plus games, have respect for people who made the investment you were talking about. If you want to trash the Cardinals, go to Wrigley Field.
It's a good time to do it too.
Yeah. But
you're going to get a good chorus going.
Yeah.
No, it's
the Cardinals have no problem at all with you spending money to come to the games. Trust me. And it doesn't matter what you yell. If and you know what, sometimes things are going bad. You're down 8-1 last night or whatever it was, and you lose 8-2. I would think that if Bill DeWitt the third were walking in the stands and heard a cat call, as long as it wasn't vulgar or obscene, I'd think he'd say, "Oh, okay, I kind of get it."
Henry, what good does it do to constantly crap on the team? My catharsis, my guy. Like, these people come home from work and they want to be happy because their team's winning, and people make it a big part of their personality if their team's winning or losing. And when their team's losing, it makes them angry. And I completely understand that level of care and why your team being bad bothers you. I'll never criticize somebody for getting worked up about your team being bad bothering you. That's, again, crossing lines or refusing to have a conversation about how the thing that bothers me about fans is like, if your team sucks, and so therefore you're like, well, I don't want to hear about the young rookie who's playing well. Well, that's a point where I don't get fandom anymore, because it's like, well, you should still have a room for positivity, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't criticize in a fair and logical way if your team's bad. And right now there's plenty of things to criticize this team about, I think.
And my point is that they, as an organization, are very cold and calculating. This team is exactly what I expected it would be. Actually, it's better than I expected it would be. If you're looking at it from a global view, from my perspective, I'm pretty happy about the way things are going with this team. And I don't think that I've trashed them. I think, though, we have to be objective about it. I think that, and I love the fact that you expect them to win every day and you think they're really good, but I don't think even they believe. Even we're going to pass the 100-game mark next week. I think we're going to be at 97 at the All-Star break, 97 games played. I don't think the Cardinals know if they're good or not.
And for me, it's also, Henry's saying, hey, they're only a game and a half back of a playoff spot. But you have to understand that there are some fans, and I think I'm not trying to take a side here. I think it's completely reasonable on both sides to have the thought process of being the third wild card is not actually being a competitive team. There are people out there who view the third wild card team as simply a cash grab for Major League Baseball and not a team that is usually legitimately in the tournament to win a World Series. Now, for the most part, the wild card over the last couple of years has kind of broke that thought process, but I think over the years, that's the expectation, is that, and so there's some people who don't care about being the third wild card. And I think they have a logical reason as to why their thought process takes them to, I don't care if my team's a third wild card. I care if my team's actually a threat to win. And at the same time, I understand the people who are on your side, Henry, who say, just get in the tournament and let's win it, because I think that's what a lot of people in the game also think.
One other quick one here, and I want to get to this chat, and I appreciate the passion here, but it's the one about being 19th in payroll. Let me go back down to this. It was hold on. We'll find it here because we're really good at what we're doing. You guys are just texting in wildly, and we enjoy it.
I saw it. I know it's on here somewhere. I saw the letter, the words, and the number 19 somewhere, and I'm completely. Here we go. You mama. It's not just losing; it's losing while being ranked 19th in payroll when you have been around 9th.
Okay, here's the thing. One of the reasons that the Cardinals are 19th in payroll and not 20th or 21st or 22nd is because they're giving Miles Michaelis $18.5 million this year. They're giving Steven Matz $11 million this year. Arenado is getting $25.5 million this year. He's not the player that he once was. Just because you're paying players a lot of money doesn't mean that your team is going to be good. They could sign 3 more Miles Michaelises and add, let's see, 36, 46, 50, $55 million to their payroll. They could do that. Are you going to be happy then that they're spending money because they have 3 more Miles Michaelises on their team? I don't think that is what I want to see. I would rather see young players getting an opportunity. And I'd actually rather see, rather than Miles Michaelis at $18.5 million, I'd rather see a McGreevy getting an opportunity. I'd rather see young players that aren't making as much getting an opportunity this year than seeing more $18.5 million players that are getting rocked for 6 home runs at Wrigley Field.
Doobie, God, I always keep forgetting how to say his name. Doobie-doo-doo. Sorry, the fan base has spoken. Look around Busch Stadium every game and tell me what you see. Fans dressed as red seats is what you see. I mean, come on.
Yep.
Yeah. Randy ran down a pretty good logical mindset as to why that has been sapped away and why the Cardinals are missing that reason for people to go down to the ballpark. I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you on that one. The numbers have been dropping. But I think to Randy's point, going back to the expectations for this season and now getting into this attendance question, this is not sending alarm bells around the offices on Clark right now. This is simply the numbers coming across the ticker like they expected them to.
And they know that there's a reason that things dropped off. And one of the things, and I was happy to hear this from an executive, is that they know they have to earn the trust of the fans back. And it was a process to have the attendance fall off like it has, and it will be a process to get it back. And the term that was used for me was, we have to earn the trust of the fans back. We understand why they're not here, and we have to earn and that means that what they're doing right now, they have to win. They have to, with their reset, whatever you want to call it, they have to ultimately be highly competitive and win and fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And they are doing, you can say all the BS you want about, we want to make it a better game day experience. But is Florida in town tomorrow?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. That stuff is all great. And by the way, Friday nights are fun. The game day experience is fine, but ultimately you got to be an entertaining product on the field. Doesn't matter what you do. You can get Bruce Springsteen to play after a game, and that's not going to draw you fans on a Wednesday night.
No, it's not. You got to win baseball games, and you got to have, again, you said it with the Rams too. You have to have players that people want to come down and see. And I think they have them right now, but I think there has to be also a trust around the long-term plan. And while I think, and one of the reasons why I've been confident about this season, it's the Braves, my apologies. What I've been confident about this season is that there is a plan. Now, you might not agree with the plan, but the fact that there is a plan in place gives me a little bit more positivity about going. Now, again, I'm also saying that as somebody who does not spend a lot of my entertainment dollars down at Busch Stadium. I'm just being 100% honest about that. The way that my schedule works out, I don't go to a lot of Cardinals games. And so I'm coming at a perspective where I like their plan, but I'm also not spending my money on tickets every week. So if you are the person who's spending your money on tickets every week and you say, I don't like their plan, then I think criticize away. That's a completely reasonable spot that you're in.
And this is what's great about sports and what we're doing here. And we want to give you a voice. We all have an opinion. I said to Bill DeWitt III down the stretch last year in August or September, I said, if you let Goldschmidt and Gibson and Lynn walk and give young players an opportunity, it won't bother me at all. I will not criticize you. I will not complain. And I haven't, because I'm with you. At least they have a decent plan. Signing Lynn and Gibson, swell guys, and Sonny Gray, it was great for those guys. That was no plan to win. And at least now you can see, now it might be a train coming at you, but you can see some light at the end of the tunnel with young pitchers like Pallante, last night notwithstanding, and McGreevy. He'll get his opportunity here sooner rather than later. And you got Matthews. Roby pitches for Memphis tonight. At least you can see concepts of a plan. You ever heard that one before? From the Cardinals.
2 years away from being 2 years away. Wesley, for several years, weekday seats for non-premium opponents were $5. The get-in price this year is $15. That needs to be mentioned, and that's why we did, Wesley, just for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that is, and listen, Randy gives me a lot of crap because I was very mad about them changing up the was it 314 bar before it was a bow tie bar.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
The 314 where they used to have
$5 beer.
$5 beers.
It was a big deal.
I was very adamant about how I had a lot of friends.
Everybody your age. And by the way, now up in the Budweiser Terrace, what do they have?
They have $5 beers.
Yeah. So no, that was it was a Budweiser bow tie, and it might have been 314. That was the 703 Club, which is fantastic. But see, and this goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the fact that it's now an event as much as or more than it is a competition. People literally go to the game to drink. The baseball part of it is secondary. If I can get a $5 beer, I was at the game last night talking to my friends, but it's really not about watching what's going on down on the field. They don't care about the fact that a guy hits a cutoff man. It's not everybody. Now, there are a lot of people that go and still score at Busch Stadium, score the game, not score in the stands. That would be illegal. But I do think, and this is part of the genius of what made them really rock and roll, was they made Cardinal baseball an event as much as or more than it was a game.
And that's always been the fact of baseball is it kind of builds itself that way with the fact that things are a little bit slower, and maybe that's changed now that they've sped things up with the pitch clock and things like that. I mean, obviously it has sped things up. That's not a question. I'm just wondering if it maybe has affected a little bit of the game day atmosphere for people. There are some angry fans still in the chat. Aaron Dobson says, a plan. That's hilarious. The plan is to save money. Well, I'm not going to disagree with you there, because when you stop getting a $60 million check every year, and the check is all of a sudden, I'm not sure what the money is, but not 60 million. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that means you then have to say, well, if our costs or if our revenue's coming down, our costs have to come down in a commensurate way. And I just think that's the reality of the Cardinals situation. They were able to spend to a free point because they always knew the money was coming in from the TV deal, and now that chunk of the money has evaporated to a point, and that pinches things a little bit.
And they are very analytically inclined on the business side as well as the baseball side. 3 years ago, 2022, and let me double check here. I believe it's 3 years ago. The Cardinals drew 2.3 million people. 3.2 million. This year they're on pace for 2.2 approximately, maybe even less. They're going to lose 1 million fans over 3 years. The average fan walking through those gates spends $50. Put it together. 50 times 1 million. That's 50 million.
Yeah.
That's $50 million that they had to spend a couple of years ago in 2023 that they won't have to spend this year. So in addition to what you're talking about, the TV money, the revenue from ticket sales has been reduced as well. And I got to tell you, last year, again, they paid $22 million for Gibson and Lynn. I like the pitching staff better this year. I like Liberatore starting all the time. I like Pallante. I like those two in the rotation better than and personally, I really like those guys. But I like these guys' performance better, and I like their upside better. Paul Goldschmidt last year at first base. Don't you like, there's a Jimmy the Cat Hayes. Don't you like the idea of, and Goldie, wonderful human being, one of the best ever. But don't you like the idea of being able to get Contreras being healthy and playing first? He's been really healthy this year relative to when he caught. And then you're able to get the runway for young players that have a chance to get better. I get the fact that people want to have the Dodgers. We aren't going to have the Dodgers here. We aren't getting Mookie Betts. We aren't getting Shohei Ohtani. We aren't getting Freddie Freeman. We aren't getting all the pitchers that they have. It's just not going to happen here in St. Louis. So what's the alternative? If you aren't going to be able to give the guys $700 million or $350 million contracts, the alternative is in your market where you aren't generating as much revenue to try to draft and develop like some other successful teams. Atlanta, when they won the World Series, was one of those teams. You need to draft and develop.
Jack Chester Sunburn says Cards game day does need an upgrade. The Grays have drone shows. The QT whammy game is very 2005. Last night's presentation is why they were lucky to have 20K at the ball yard. I like the use of ball yard.
Yeah, over at the ball yard. And I'm different because being an older gentleman, an older guy, I am there for the game. But I do understand that most people that are Matthew's age, probably 45 and younger, game presentation is a huge thing. That's what we talk about, event rather than competition. And so I understand where you're coming from. And the Cardinals are trying to improve that. And they've actually got some younger people in the front office that are trying to improve it. But on a regular basis, they do need to have the best game presentation in baseball.
Yeah, you got to make it an event to be there, and I agree with that one. Mama trading Edman was strictly a money move, trying to replace him with cheaper options. Getting Fetty for a year at $7 million, and they knew they were not going to pay him. The offense would be a lot better with him in it. I feel like we're ignoring the fact that he didn't play a game for the Cardinals at any point last year because of the injury.
And so here's my understanding about the Tommy Edman situation. Didn't hear it from Tommy, but heard it from reliable people. That Tommy Edman was going to be a free agent after this year. He obviously signed an extension with the Dodgers. He was never going to play for the Cardinals last year. He had checked out, wasn't really happy with the way the wrist was responding, and he was going to leave either way after this season. He was going to play his free agent year as well as he could and build up his market value so that he could leave as a free agent. Tommy Edman was not going to be around. So, yes, it might have been a cost-saving move, but it was also a preemptive move because the Cardinals knew they had all these middle infielders that were here or coming, and they knew that he didn't want to be here anymore. And so he landed in a perfect spot. He's from Southern California, and he won a world championship. He won an NLCS MVP. Good for him. But I don't think that was something where the Cardinals were saying, yeah, we got to get rid of this guy because we don't want to pay him.
And I would love it if my teams that I was a fan of were owned by reckless billionaires who wanted to spend all their free cash on winning championships. But there's one of those guys. There's a lot of things I want in this world. One of them, instead of the Dodgers, honestly, if I had to pull anything out of LA, it would simply be the weather. I want St. Louis to have the weather of San Diego. But much like you wanting billionaires to constantly spend into their own pockets to win championships, it ain't happening. So you can say the TV check is an excuse, or you can look at it like a reality of the situation and how anytime a team loses a bunch of money, they're going to cut into the payroll to not go into the red on the P&L statements. Like that's just the fact of the matter. I listen, it's not great. It's not ideal, but that's the reality of the world.
That's not how you become a billionaire. By losing money. There's a reason that all of these guys have $1 billion, and it's not because they spent more than they were taking in.
And I've been told by a fake person here that we're not a real city because we don't have the NFL or the NBA.
True.
But luckily, you're a comic book character, so I don't really care what your opinion is.
Yeah. I am totally on board. Here's my belief. Number one, you can be a legitimate city without the National Football League. There are several of those cities out there. But the NFL legitimizes your city. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
So, like Jacksonville, who would care about Jacksonville if they didn't have the Jaguars, if they didn't have the NFL?
Actually, that's a really good argument because I still do not care at all about Jacksonville.
But you know what it is?
Yeah, that's fair.
They've hosted a Super Bowl.
I really don't care about Sacramento. I feel like the NBA doesn't have that power yet.
No, I'm with you there. But Green Bay, who would know
that's
about
a good
Green
point.
Bay,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, Green Bay is a really good argument.
If they didn't have an NFL team.
Yeah, that's the nail in the coffin argument for the NFL. Yeah, that's it. The fact that I still on my bucket list have a trip to Lambeau Field. Yeah, damn it.
So the league, the NFL does legitimize you when you're one of the 32, but you can still be a great city. Now, we got work to do. But my LA wasn't a bad city when they didn't have the NFL for 20 years.
Yeah, well, yeah. Bill Downton also, I love the perspective here. If Edman was here, he does not play in the playoffs, and he's only hitting .239 this year.
There you go.
I feel like fans would be pretty pissed off if they were paying him $16 million a year.
Yeah. And what was he getting here? Like 9 or something?
8.5.
Yeah. So it wasn't
that
much.
two-year, $16.5 million deal, I think it was.
Hey, I am going to get to the Fenton Bar and Grill here in the next couple of days, and I'm going to try out some of those. I'm going to have. I've already tried them, and I know I love them. The best trashed wings that you will ever have are at the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. I have been there so much, and I'll tell you what, on days like we've had lately, the 90-degree days, those fresh salads that they have are fantastic. You like some nice, cool lettuce, try their Cobb salad. I am a big fan of their Cobb salad. And by the way, they're homemade dressings, but they have ham and perfectly smoked and seasoned turkey, fresh red onions, red tomatoes, shredded cheddar, croutons, and you can get it with that ranch dressing. It is delicious. But the tantalizing wings, and put some of that signature golden sauce on those babies, that is fantastic. And Matthew, I told you that I tried the trashed chicken sandwich, and it was fantastic. And I got sides on the side, but they have fantastic sides at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Try some of those. And oh, by the way, it's Thursday. It's Gumbo Day. The best gumbo you will ever have is at the Fenton Bar and Grill. So stop by this afternoon for a late lunch. Maybe stop by when you're out and about. You can also get some of that gumbo for dinner. If you have a business lunch coming up, make it the Fenton Barn Grill. They also have great carryouts, by the way, at the Fenton Barn Grill. Learn more at fentonbarngrill.com. Give them a call, 636-305-7041. A fantastic staff that will treat you like a king or a queen. It's the Fenton Barn Grill. When you go, tell them Randy sent you.
I like being treated like a king.
Okay, I want to get to a couple of things here, and we have a few minutes to do so. Let's start with the NFL and the ESPN. Even though they have a partnership with the NFL, they do a great job of investigating the league and the league's partners. Well, ESPN reported this morning, this is Don Van Natta, that NFL Players Association Executive Director Lloyd Howell Jr. is working as a paid part-time consultant for the Carlyle Group, one of a select group of league-approved private equity firms now seeking minority ownership in NFL franchises, ESPN has learned. So he is working with people that are trying to become owners of NFL franchises and have relationships with the ownership of the NFL, yet he is the executive director of the union. Doesn't that sound like a conflict of interest?
They have lost their way completely. I have no idea what's going on right now at the NFLPA. They have the potential to really shift things for the better of the players, and they have, I believe, in multiple CBAs over the last 10, 15 years. But this and then going into the covering up the collusion thing, it feels like just a direct abdication of duties from the NFLPA in a really, really nasty way.
And here's a couple of interesting points. Number one, last August, after vetting multiple equity firms, the NFL named 3 of them and a consortium of firms, including Carlyle, to a list of approved funds that can invest in minority franchise stakes not to exceed 10% of NFL teams. But Howell had already been, a month later, a senior union lawyer spoke with Howell, the executive director of the union, about whether it was appropriate for him to continue working as an operations executive in the Carlyle Group's aerospace and defense investment firm. Howell was asked to consider resigning from the private equity firm by the union to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. He, though, declined to step away from Carlyle and has kept both jobs.
It's the last line is really the final.
Yeah.
The final just, little Susan just he is left, but yeah, that's insane. I don't know how this kind of thing gets past the initial Passover. Like how do you just ignore it?
And if you're the union, this guy's making well over $1 million, I think more than $2 million a year. And Jim Quinn, the NFLPA's former lead outside counsel of about 25 years, said that when he represented Howell's predecessors, Gene Upshaw and DeMaurice Smith, neither was allowed to be paid for outside work. He said, quote, "As far as I knew, they never had the ability to earn outside income. That wasn't their job. Their job was to represent the players. So they couldn't even, at least to my understanding here, go work at Quick Trip. They couldn't earn any other outside income. Their only income was the substantial salary they got from being executive director of the NFL."
And that's how it should be, because you have to keep things as clean as possible. You have to keep everything as clean as possible so that nobody is being potentially shifted in one way or another. And when you were talking about the ownership group having as much power as they do, it's cliche, but people at the height of the NFLPA have to be beyond reproach, and their record of standing with the players has to be beyond reproach, or else they are failing at their duties entirely.
And by the way, Howell made between $3 and $4 million from the union last year, so he's being paid enough. He doesn't need to do this Carlyle work. But it's interesting how this league can get people in their pocket, and even the union chief. They've got, heck, they look at the way they deal with the government. There are no rules that really apply to the NFL. And basically, if the NFL wants something, they're going to get it. Sometimes it'll cost them $790 million when they break their own rules. But the fact of the matter is, what the NFL wants, the NFL gets. And I'm sure, based on the story that came out yesterday, they didn't want this story to come out either. But they get people in their pocket, and they basically run everything, including their players union. And yesterday, you had given me the story yesterday about the league and the NFL, and this would be Howell, struck a, quote, unusual confidentiality agreement that hid the details of an arbitration decision that said that the league didn't collude from the players. It hid the details of that decision from the people who had filed the complaint.
Yes, and it's insane. And the only reason the players know about it is because of Pablo Torre finds out and investigative journalism. And players told ESPN that, quote unquote, they were surprised by details in the ruling and that they didn't understand why the union hasn't shared the ruling with them. Again, the arbitration case, which was ruled in favor of the NFL, was that there was a collusion accusations coming from the NFLPA around a meeting, which now this is not denied by the NFL. This is admitted. This is a factual thing. The NFL and league executives urged team owners to reduce guaranteed player compensation following the Deshaun Watson deal with the Cleveland Browns. That is an unequivocal fact. Those conversations happened. But apparently, there was not enough evidence to prove that it was it crossed the line into collusion, and they did not prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt or beyond the burden of the proof. I forgot what the stipulation was. And so they didn't. So the arbitration or the collusion case was handled. Nothing's wrong about the NFL, but then they kept that away from the players, that they even had this arbitration for the collusion between the NFL and the NFLPA, which is unbelievable. And part of that has to be that part of the collusion was that J.C. Tretter, formerly of the NFLPA, was essentially helping the NFL because he had an issue with Russell Wilson's contract. Yeah. And so there's a reason why they tried to hide this from the players, which is the NFLPA looks feckless, and they look like they look like they're almost colluding with the NFL to harm players, because the players at the top of the NFLPA, who used to be players who are supposed to have the players back, are now working with the people they are supposed to be directly, I guess confrontational is the best way to put it. Like, you are supposed to be adversaries. You're working towards a common goal, but you are adversaries on the opposite side of this line. And apparently J.C. Tretter and company have been jumping back and forth. And if I was an NFL player, I'd be pretty pissed.
Speaking of pissed, the Flash, apparently official. A voluntary recall has been issued for select Ritz peanut butter cracker sandwiches that may be incorrectly labeled and cause severe allergic reactions. According to a statement issued by the FDA, I didn't know that still existed. Some individually wrapped packs of the crackers may be incorrectly labeled as cheese variety, even though they may be peanut butter variety. Oh, no. So you could be eating what you think is a cheese cracker, have a peanut allergy. It'll cause your face to swell up. So I just want you to know that. Eric Cleveland on the chat. The NFL is the most powerful company in the world. I don't disagree with that one bit. Mary Likens, my face has no feckless.
Terrible.
I think it's great.
Terrible joke.
Let's see what else we got here. The other thing I wanted to get to is Joel Klatt. Do you have much respect for Joel Klatt's knowledge?
Yeah, I do.
So Joel Klatt listed 10 college football teams that he thinks could make their first college football playoff this year.
Okay.
And he's got the Fighting Illini as number 1.
And that's a good pick.
He said Illinois was handed a rather favorable Big Ten schedule compared to their conference counterparts. They don't have to play Penn State, Oregon, or Michigan, and they host Ohio State. If they take care of business, the Fighting Illini could log consecutive 10-win seasons for the first time in program history. He also lists some other teams, top 10, of course. Ole Miss, number 2. South Carolina, number 3. A couple from the SEC. Miami, 4. Iowa, 5. He says Iowa's going to have an improved offense.
You'd hope so.
And number 6 on Joel Klatt's list of teams that could make their first college football playoff, your Missouri Tigers. He says Mizzou is surrounded by question marks due to losing top talent at key positions after last season. However, Eli Drinkwitz led the Tigers to consecutive 10-win seasons for the first time in a decade. Who's to say he can't do it again? So let's hope that Mizzou is one of those teams. And man, I look at that schedule, and obviously Bo Prabula is going to have to work out, and there are things that are going to have to happen. I look at that schedule, and I see potential, huge potential for MIZ. Are you? Can you be objective about MIZ?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So I want to do this for you then.
I'm not a crazy. I don't have it in me to be a crazy fan of. I don't know if there's any team where I'm like I'm so much of a fan where I can't be objective anymore. I don't know if there's a team anymore that exists.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad you're objective then. Okay, so I want you to be objective and just say, okay, chance or no chance for a win, loss, or chance or win, loss, coin flip. Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right.
Mizzou, their opener, Central Arkansas, win or loss?
Win.
KU.
Win.
You got Louisiana at home.
Win.
South. Yep. That's your 3-0.
Yeah. Which Louisiana? Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
yeah. Louisiana Lafayette. South Carolina at home.
This is the first real pinch. I'm gonna go with a win.
Okay. UMass at home.
Win.
Okay. This is a big one. Alabama at home.
Loss.
Okay. At Auburn.
It's a W.
At Vandy.
It's a W.
Okay. Now here's another big one. A&M at home.
I really think, God, they just have so much. That's a loss. That's a loss.
Okay.
Coin flip.
Okay. Mississippi State at home.
That's a win.
At Oklahoma.
That's a win.
And at Arkansas.
Should be a win.
So we're looking at 10-1 and coin flip.
I 10-2 is honestly is my high watermark for what I think they can do. The problem is there's a game do they? South Carolina is the only one I'm really worried about in the early run, and I really think other than that, it's A&M, it's South Carolina, it's Bama, and I'm riding high right now on Oklahoma right now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always a chance that they are really good.
They got the top transfer in John Matier at quarterback.
Yes, they did.
Alabama still doesn't know who their quarterback is going to be. Mizzou is going to have a fierce pass rush. I hope Al Davis, their defensive line coach, leaving doesn't negatively affect them, but they should have a great pass rush. I could see that being a low-scoring game at home where you beat Alabama like 17-13 or something like that. Here's the thing. I think they have a chance to win every single game. I think they have a legitimate chance to win every single game. I don't see a game on there where I say, okay, that's an automatic loss.
Well, I mean, if your quarterback is one part Cam Newton, one part Joe Burrow, and one part Tim Tebow, obviously you should have the chance, Randy.
Yeah,
come on, now.
You should.
My Mizzou mindset still has me to the point where I'm like, what's the one win? What's the one loss that shouldn't be?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And is it Oklahoma to make them 9-3?
Yeah. Did we have one of those last year? I don't think we did. Because you lose it, you get clobbered at Texas A&M, you get clobbered at Alabama, and then you lose to South Carolina when you should have made a tackle. But South Carolina was legit, though. All three of the losses were legit losses. There wasn't a loss last year where you said, "Oh, they shouldn't have lost that game."
I think I can be mad about getting pumped by A&M the way it happened.
But
you got
going
pumped.
win or loss.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, that's fair. That's fine.
Yeah. So and they did. I was
feeling pretty good about that A&M game, and that one. That thing went south in a hurry.
Yep. Bad officiating, by the way.
Oh God, like that one. That's the one that would qualify. If you had to pick one out from last year, it would obviously be the A&M game because you're feeling good early season, everything's clicking, and then you just get absolutely steamrolled in a way that shouldn't happen.
I'm not predicting 12-0 because I'm like you. Mizzou has always seemed to have that loss, but I think things are different under Eli. And I just think that they have a chance to be really good.
He's got the mindset different. Everything's different down there. It feels different. The stadium now looks different.
Yep. And you know what's cool for him? And not that this happens during the season, is that he's got a guy now where he can make a phone call. And if there's an offensive tackle or if there's a quarterback, he can call up and say, I need X amount of dollars so that I can sign this player. And he's going to get it.
I will say the one non-objective thing I'll say is, it is awesome as a Mizzou fan or for Mizzou fans to be able to see other SEC teams complaining that Mizzou's buying players. It's just like, welcome to the conversation. You guys all thought we were going to be your podunk little cousin the entire time we were here, and yet spending the big bucks, winning some games. And that, if you're a Mizzou fan, that is a very enjoyable thing, and I think it's why there's so much positivity around MIZ. And hopefully it can continue without them, crapping the bet against KU in week 2.
No doubt. Pat. And by the way, KU, they're pretty good.
I know.
They should, at home, Mizzou should be ready to thump them. I mean, it's the SEC against, what are they in the Mountain West, KU?
I think they're in the Big 12.
That's basically the Mountain West, isn't it?
Big 12 commissioner yesterday talking about how much how imperative it is for them to get a second team in the playoff this season.
Oh, that's really important.
Yeah, we'll see if it happens.
Okay, I'm going to. Okay, this is realignment at its best. This is fun. Okay.
Oh, geez.
This will be fun. Okay.
Oh. This is gonna piss me off.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you how many teams are in the Big 12, and I want you to name as many as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, 16 teams in the Big 12. Name as many as you can.
There's 16.
Yeah.
Texas Tech,
1,
Baylor,
2,
Kansas,
3,
Kansas State,
4,
Iowa
5.
State.
Yep.
Oklahoma State.
Yep.
SMU.
Nope.
UCF.
Yep.
West Virginia.
Yep.
Did a bunch of West Coast? Anybody out west come out?
Couple.
Who came to join? Boise State? No, they're out west still. I'm capped out at I'm capped out at 8.
Okay, so we got Arizona State and Arizona.
Oh yeah. Okay, the Arizona's did. Okay, yeah. Duh. BYU, Colorado, and Colorado State.
No, Colorado State. Cincinnati.
Get the F out of here.
Yeah.
I had completely forgotten about Cincinnati.
Did you name Baylor?
I did name Baylor, yes.
Did you name Texas Tech?
I didn't. I got all the old.
Okay, good.
I got all the old Big 12 teams. You're not going to get me on those.
Okay, good.
I got all them. I got all
TCU.
TCU. I should have guessed. You know what? As soon as I guess SMU, I don't know why I didn't immediately guess TCU.
And the other one,
that's bad on me. There's one
more.
more.
The other one's Utah.
It is you. Oh my God, Utah did join the Big 12. That's insane.
Who
the hell's in this new Pac-12 then?
Oh, this is unbelievable.
Who the hell's in this new Pac-12?
It's everything with a state. Everything in the mountain region with a state.
Washington State, Oregon State, Utah State, Idaho. No, Vandals aren't in there. No way. Boise State, San Diego State.
Did you say Colorado State?
I did say Colorado State.
Okay.
San Diego State.
I think they're in it. Yep. Okay, here I'm pulling it up here. Okay, I got you. This is so much fun.
This is insane because right now officially it's only 2 teams, but eventually, Fresno State, Gonzaga only basketball. Obviously,
I think they're moving it. I don't know if they're going to do. Oh, maybe they are.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking at it. And Texas State. That's the other one. Okay, I knew Texas State was getting involved in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And they're also going to have 3 affiliate members, including Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, California State University at Bakersfield, and University of Arkansas at Little Rock. Wait a second. Where's Cal? Where's Cal?
Cal's in the ACC, or no? ACC.
Cal's in the ACC
with Stanford. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I completely forgot about. I'm sorry. I know people have made the jokes, but that's just teams on the West Coast being in the ACC is an abomination.
And when
I can't believe they're in the ACC.
You wondered about SMU. So SMU went to the ACC for no TV money, and their boosters said that they would make them good on the TV money.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't take the TV money. I completely forgot about that. That's insane. I hate realignment so much, and I know
that's the stupid.
Someone's going to point.
It's like, and I know this sounds
I feel
like homerism. I until Texas and Oklahoma, I was fine with the SEC. No, because I like the regionality of the SEC, and I still think you can make
A&M and Missouri made some sense.
Yeah,
but as soon as the Big 12 then had to respond by picking up West Virginia, and it was this is beyond the pale.
And then obviously USC, Washington, Oregon being in the Big 10 is stupid,
unbelievable.
Yeah. So
I completely forgotten about some of those random ass teams. Oh, that's so much fun.
So
they're in the ACC.
Yeah. So it is fun to have.
God.
So pretty much everybody in the new Pac-12 though is a state.
Yes, is a state. Yeah, is a state school, and at least they make sense. That's fine. I'm okay with that one. Yeah, Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State. California State University, San Luis Obispo, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Texas State, Utah State,
Texas State.
Okay, they are currently in the Sun Belt.
So this is not. They can't be considered a Power 5, can they?
I believe they're going to try to claim that, but you can't be. You cannot be when your best historical university is I would guess the Oregon State University.
Yeah, I think it is, which is bad.
That's you can't claim anything in football at that point. Sorry about you. But if that's your football legacy, you're not a power. You're not a power conference. Sorry about it.
I want to catch up with you guys just a little bit on some of your late chats here. Let's see. Baseball, John Mozeliak have control of these players. Do you like the idea? Ken Rosenthal was saying, he wrote yesterday at The Athletic that the Rockies are going to fire their general manager. And I've said this before.
Before they draft number 1 overall.
Mo is he thought maybe after.
Oh, okay.
But they would follow the lead of Washington.
Yes.
But Mo grew up in Boulder. He graduated from Colorado. He worked for the Rockies for 3 years.
Yep.
And when they actually, I think, made a playoff run in their first 3 years, he gets the lay of the land. I think he understands what it takes to win there. And they've been so bad. It might not be a bad idea for the Monforts to at least give him a call and say, hey, would you be interested in being our Pobo? Because I think that he probably has a better understanding of what it takes to win there, what type of player and pitcher it takes to win there than most.
Just because it would be hilarious and I'm always here for chaos. Yes, I hope that happens.
Yeah, chaos
that would be absolutely hilarious if that happens. If he's out there managing another team and making trades and things like that, we now have that to compare against. Yeah, that's kind of all I want. I'm very cynical why I want it, but it is what I want, Randy. You hit it right on the.
And
Walt
Jocketty wound up. He had some success once he went over to Cincinnati after he had left here. So it was pretty good. All right, we appreciate all your participation today on the chat.
Guys.
This has been fun. A lot of good Cardinals conversation. Cards and Nationals tonight. Chip Carey will have the call on FanDuel. By the way, I didn't catch, and I got to admit, I'm not a huge Rush guy. Did he give us any Rush stuff last night? Do you know?
You know what? I tuned in for a very short period of time from the 2nd to the 6th inning, and I don't think I heard any Rush references. But here's the thing:
he was going to do it in the open, and
he was going to do it in the open. But also the problem is I'm not enough of a Rush fan. I don't know if I would get it.
Yeah, that's my thing too.
So we have to. I know that St. Louis. We talked about it with him for that reason. St. Louis, big Rush town. If he did get a Rush lyric in there, and me and Randy just missed it in our ignorance, let us know.
Yeah. And we appreciate you being a part of this program. Don't forget, use your DraftKings where the crown is yours. Enjoy a meal today at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Tell them Randy sent you. And enjoy the Cardinals game tonight. As we said, Chip and BT at 6:45 on FanDuel. And I think we're good here.
Yeah, we're good here.
I think we got to figure it out. Bernie with us tomorrow, obviously, as he is every Friday. Tomorrow, by the way, I have a doctor's appointment, so we got to get off early. I know it's weird, but
I will say, check out STL Sports Central right now. Yesterday, we put out a fantastic video with Joe Roderick and Bernie Miklasz breaking down what might be the preeminent debate on our numbers of St. Louis lists. Number 50, Adam Wainwright versus Jordan Binnington. Who is the greatest number 50 in the history of St. Louis? Check out STL Sports Central right now. And for some reason, Pisatina Isamoa was not discussed. I have a bone to pick with both Joe and Bernie, and we'll handle that tomorrow.
All right, we shall. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a fabulous Friday Eve, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.